Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey, the show that dives into the science of higher consciousness with inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. Join Todd, Jackie, and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. It's all right here with stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Now, here's your hosts, Todd and Jackie.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and it's especially groovy because today is Life Mastery Radio Day. Yay! Every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Jackie and I show up here to bring you some great authors, speakers, coaches, people who are on the cutting edge of their own becoming and willing to share how to do it, how about to do it, and I guess, what else would I say, Jackie?
And everything in between.
And everything in between. It's also a groovy day because I make it that way. When I get up in the morning, I decide it's going to be groovy, and the whole day turns out to be a groovy day. And you could do it too. Before my feet hit the ground, that's what I decide. Something might happen, something might change, but I always just think back and turn it around, and it works just about every time. So try it. You'll like it. As always, I have my co-host with me today, Jackie Bailey. Hi, Jackie.
Hello. How's everybody doing out there?
Jackie is becoming quite the traveled person.
Well, I guess I'm upping my speaking opportunities, and that's taking me to new places, so to speak.
And new experiences and all
new
kinds
experiences of things. And yeah, I'm finding out though that traveling in the winter is not always fun. Lots of flight delays. My baggage was kind of ripped open when I opened it when I opened the overhead bin in this last place. I had to tape it all closed. And customer service is dead with the airlines and the travel industry. But it's good. I had a great speaking experience last week in Columbus, Ohio. Huge room, and it filled up, and then people kept coming, and they had to bring in chairs and more chairs, and then people were sitting on the floor, and I had a great engaging group to hear my presentation, and so that was all good. Of course, I have so many classes online that I have to make sure I stay in one place long enough to get all my online classes done before I travel and get on a plane. So anyway,
and you were speaking to camp counselors? Is that what you were?
I was speaking to the American Camp Association, who are executive directors of camps for kids. So there may have been a few counselors there too, but most of the time, most of those people were the directors who create, who hire, and put on camps for kids all around the country. So
that's a lot of camp directors. Wow,
there's a lot of camp directors. Yeah, this was the 4th region actually of the ACA that I've spoken to in the last couple of months. And so there's a lot more of them out there. And some of these executives, they manage 300 camps themselves. So there's a lot of kids involved in a lot of kids.
And the idea was you were presenting your wares of how to, of your teachings, I should say, on how to get kids speaking from their heart.
Yes, actually, I am developing a card deck that the counselors can use at camp, a couple of cards a day that will give the kids they'll teach them a principle and then give them an activity to do, and then a sort of an assignment throughout the day. And then they come back to their cabin at night and review what they learned about the principle of communication that they learned. So I introduced that as something, and everyone was very, very interested in that product. So hopefully we'll have some cards made and printed so they can start using them this summer at their camps. It'll be really exciting.
And it's going to spread like wildfire. That's pretty cool. So if you're interested, go to speakfeedly.org and find Jackie, or Jackie Bailey Speaks, and you can find out more and inquire more about her cards, or maybe you have a presentation coming up and you want a little coaching. Jackie's the lady to get a hold of.
Yeah, in fact, here's another exciting part of what we've got going on right now. 4 of my mentees who are 10 to probably 16, maybe 15, 16. They've just been interviewed by a TEDx event organizer who really liked them. And so there's going to be a TEDx event here in Bellevue, Todd. And so that'll be in April. So I'm looking forward to possibly having 4 of my young students on that TEDx stage. It's really exciting.
Man,
And we'll know
you
next week. We'll know next week if they're on. So then the
you
work
have
begins.
grown so much. My goodness. Keep
Well,
going,
it's
Jackie.
fun.
Keep going. You're an inspiration to me and others. That's for
Oh,
sure.
thanks. Well,
I want to
here's the
remind our
downside,
listeners that
though. My
today's
TEDx talk isn't published yet. What is going on with that? Anyway,
it's coming.
it's
Save the
coming.
best for last. Save the best for last. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.net or .com, whichever one. And you can go there, sign up for our newsletter. Jackie writes a blog post about each show that we do. All the links are there. We have shows on YouTube. Sign up for the newsletter. Her and my books are there. Her book and my book. She has many more books that I haven't gotten up there yet, but you can follow the links and find more. Check us out. Alrighty then. What else do we have? I guess today's guest is Jackie's guest, so that means she has the introduction. So take it away, Jackie.
Yes, I'm always delighted to introduce people that I meet throughout the different networks and communities that I'm so blessed to belong to. And Chris Mitchell, our guest today, is one of those fabulous people, and he's coming to share with us a very unique perspective that I know will inspire a lot of people because he's a 2-time award-winning speaker and a certified confidence life coach. His latest book, his 3rd book, is about to be published soon, and it's based on his signature coaching program of the same name called Success Starts with Self-Confidence 10 Steps to Success for the Self-Employed Person with a Disability. Chris helps self-employed persons with and without disabilities to develop and grow their self-confidence and succeed as people who are self-employed and those who have those extra challenges of being disabled. He is the founder and CEO at #Defying Yourself, which is also one of his books. It's titled It Doesn't Define Me. That was one of his other books. The other book is called The Cheese Ball Clan. Looking forward to talking about those. And he's a freelance writer. He's a blogger. He's a host of 2 podcasts and a YouTube creator. He calls himself a disruptive voice in the disabled community. And Chris, it is so delightful to have you here. We're excited to hear your story and how you're bringing your genius into the world. Welcome to Life Mastery Radio.
Thank you very much for having me and giving me this wonderful opportunity to speak to your amazing, awesome audience.
They are amazing and awesome. We've loved having them for so many years now, right, Todd? We've sort of grown up with
5.
this fabulous audience. So, yeah. Well, Chris, so maybe we should start from the beginning. You have a disability, or maybe a couple. You want to tell us about that and how
Sure.
your life has been shaped by that?
Yes, I have multiple disabilities. I say I'm a person with multiple disabilities. When before I was born, my mom was exposed to the German measles, so I was born with some birth defects and disabilities caused by CRS, Congenital Rubella Syndrome, which is not that common today, but back when I was born, it was. One of the disabilities is vision. I was born with cataracts. My vision is 2200 in my left eye, 2300 in my right eye. I basically cannot read out of my right eye unless if it's a giant billboard or the McDonald's sign, which everybody knows what a McDonald's sign looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, you see the arch, you know, hey, there's food there. So that's my visual disability. I was also born with a congenital heart condition, which was a excuse me, constricted aorta, and that required me to have a couple of surgeries, maybe several, before I went home from the hospital at 1 month after I was born. And that's been an ongoing problem in my life. Now, as I started to grow and talk, which I was a late talker, I it was very apparent I had a very severe speech impediment, which I needed speech therapy before I went to preschool. And I continued through speech therapy into 9th grade. Now, in public school, K through 12, I had some behavior issues, which was later diagnosed to be ADHD. Those issues, being ADHD, I'm on the neurodiverse spectrum, a person with neurodiverse issues. I was asked or invited to, people love it when I say it this way. I was invited to seek education elsewhere at the end of second grade. I was invited again in ninth grade to seek education elsewhere. I was invited twice by colleges to seek education elsewhere. And one of those colleges wound up hiring me a couple years later to teach a very successful community education course. So that's one of the things I like talking about, is how I've overcome the barriers in my life. Now, those are the main ones I grew up with and I lived with. I've also battled depression most of my life. It runs in my dad's side of the family. But in 2002, I was engaged and I went in for an operation. Remember that constricted aorta I mentioned earlier?
Mhm.
They had to do an ascending to descending aortic bypass. During that surgery, sometime between when I got on the gurney and woke up in CVICU, I survived an ischemic stroke to my spinal cord, which to lay people is a stroke because it looks like a stroke, but technically it is an incomplete spinal cord injury, and it robbed me of my ability to run, walk, or even stand. And the story of how that happened and how I overcame it is in my first book that I did. It Doesn't Define Me: How I Rebuilt My Life After an Ischemic Stroke to My Spinal Cord. That was my first book, and I learned I was trying for a lot of SEO. Don't make the title too long. So that, when we write books, we learn as we do them.
Right. Wow. That's
That's
incredible.
a lot to overcome.
Yes, it is.
So was how could I phrase this? I mean, you learned from an early age about overcoming. I mean, you really didn't have a choice but to overcome, right? I mean, that's kind of the direction I was heading, is you learned at an early age that there was no choice. You either survived or didn't.
That's correct. Yeah, when I was young, I'm from the age of, and the kids are not going to understand this, a rotary dial phone. You watch these videos on YouTube.
You and me both, mister.
you give this 20-year-old kid or younger a rotary dial phone, ask him, make this phone call. They dial the phone, or try to. They put the fingers in the hole, can't dial it. They don't even know they have to pick it up for us to get downtown. That's really confusing to them. But I had a rotary dial phone, and my parents got this large print overlay to put on that rotary dial phone so I can easily see the numbers to dial because of my vision impairments. I took that overlay off and I gave it back to my parents. I said, I don't want this. They said, why? And I said, the world is not going to adapt to me. I must learn to adapt to it. And I was 8 years old when I made that realization and announcement to my parents. And that's how I've taken it. I don't see a disability as an obstacle or as a barrier. I see it as a challenge. What I like to tell people is an obstacle, you see it and you think, I can't get around it. Or barrier, oh man, I cannot pass that. You see barriers on the road, road closed, and you shouldn't go past that. But a challenge, you can say, how can I take this on? How can I win? And what I do is I tell people, I eat challenges for breakfast because they're better than Cheerios. Hopefully
Well,
Cheerios does not sue me for that, but
that's
what I say.
That they're challenges, but I can tell you, my girlfriend is legally blind, and that has helped her develop, I'm going to call it superpowers. I know you call it too, because there's other aspects of her senses that overdevelop, or that are developed in an exceptional way that allows her superpowers, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm legally blind as well, and I have really good hearing, and I'm really good at feeling where things are. Like if I touch something, I can easily identify what it is most of the time. We had back in the day, we had a cable box on top of our TV, and I was sitting on the floor, and I could reach up above the TV and I can dial in the channel number. And my mom was like, how do you do that? And I said, I know how to feel for which button is which number. And I memorize things. So yes, that's very common when we have one of our senses that's not as strong. The others are amplified so we can cope and survive in the world. It's very common.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So Chris, were you born with this overcoming type of personality? Were you always a friendly kid, or did your parents just really support you and help you? I mean, what was that like with
Okay,
parents?
there's 3 questions in there, and I want to answer all
I
3 of them.
know.
First
I
of
do
all, no,
that all
no,
the
that's
time.
fine. That's fine. Because what you want to do as an interview, you don't want to ask yes, no questions. You want engagement. I get it. I do my own podcast, and I do that too. And sometimes I go back and listen and think, I could have made that one simple question. And
Yeah,
it's amazing the person figured
exactly.
out what I was trying to ask him. It's amazing. But first of all, was I a friendly kid? No. I have,
Mm,
we not talk about this much, but I know that I have, and I don't talk about it much because I don't like to self-diagnose, and I'm against that, and I've not been officially diagnosed. But I know I have some social anxiety issues, and I have difficulty with friendships and all. So I was not the friendliest kid at the time. I could
mm,
be a real jerk. I had behavior issues in my childhood, which invited me to get to other education. Well, my parents supportive. My parents were as supportive as they can. My mom came from a family where her mom left her and her sister when she's like 3 years old. So
mm,
I love my mom very much. She's still with us. But she did the best at being a mom that she could, not really having a role model in her life to show her how to be a good mom. And my dad came from a family where he was raised by his mom primarily, who battled severe depression, and and his father was a trucker, so he was away most of the time. So they did the best they could, and I don't fault them for any of it. But they were not always supportive. They were more frustrated
mm.
with me and my behavior and my not my disabilities that much, but my behavior. Well, unless you want to call that a disability with my ADHD. But I did have a
Yeah.
wonderful teacher who came into my life when I was invited to get education elsewhere in 9th grade. I was sent to a school for kids with behavior problems, and we had a teacher named Mrs. Lyons, and she said something that stuck to me to this day, and it's very important for everyone to know, especially when you have behavior issues, or even when you have failures, or maybe God forbid, your marriage falls apart. I like you. I don't like your behavior. Whenever
Hmm.
any of us acted out in class, she would say that. I like you. I don't like your behavior. And that was the first time that somebody helped me see my behavior does not necessarily define who I was. Because when I misbehaved as a kid, my parents would say, I'm so disappointed in you. I'm so ashamed of you. I'm so embarrassed by you. And they made me feel like whatever my behavior was my identity, which made me think, well, they expect me to act out, so I'm going to continue misbehaving.
Yeah,
Mrs. Lyons
great
changed that
insight.
for me.
Great insight. That's phenomenal. That is very cool.
Are there other people in your life that were an inspiration for you or very supportive of you in certain ways?
I had another teacher at which I did get invited to get education elsewhere in 9th grade, the 10th day of my freshman year. And I earned the privilege to return to that school my junior and senior year. And which does not usually happen. Once you're expelled, you never get to go back. So I was very honored by that. And I was in the resource room. I would go to class, get whatever the assignment is, go back to the resource room. There was a wonderful teacher there. Her name was Mrs. Mahoney, who, if it was not for her, I don't think I would have passed to high school. And if I did, I would not have had the grades that I earned, because she helped me stay focused and all. And she was very supportive and all. And uh, I, I, I think I owe part of my high school diploma to her, because she was the one that got behind me and do that. And of course, my wife is very supportive. We've been married for 20 years. I mentioned earlier we were engaged at the time that I had my incomplete spinal cord injury. She was supportive through all of that. She's been supportive through everything I want to do in my life. She's always been very supportive, and she puts up with me, even though at times I can be a real jerk, because I haven't, I just sometimes blurt out things. So she's really cool, and it's been a great honor to have her supportive, take care of me. Initial when I had my incomplete spinal cord injury, I could not even walk on my own. I had to have
Wow.
help getting in and out of the bed, getting dressed, ADLs, activities of daily living. And now I have the honor and the privilege of repaying her for all that kindness, because she is going through stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. So now I'm doing more of the caregiving than she is of me. And I'm grateful I can do that for many reasons. And I'm also very, very happy that I get the opportunity to do that for her, because she's done so much for me, and I love her very much.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. How did you two meet? Was it in college or?
Yes, yeah, it's very interesting. I was taking a college class, and she ran a computer lab. And I went into this computer lab for this class I was taking and all. And I thought she was cute. She thought I was cute, but we were too shy to say anything to her, but I wanted to. So I was in there in a class to how to do research on the internet. I kept raising my hand, hoping she would come over. Nope, my instructor kept coming over to help me. He probably thought I was an idiot because I raised my hand 6 times in the first day. So I did not see her again, went on with my life, and I thought, well, I'll probably never see her again. So a few months later, I have an ad on Yahoo Personals, and she had an ad on Yahoo Personals. And I found her ad, not knowing we had seen each other before. We started talking, and we realized we saw each other 2 months earlier. So we kind of met in college, but yet met through online dating.
It was supposed to be.
That's
Yeah.
true. Very much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you began to understand you were a huge overcomer, and I understand that when did you get the entrepreneurial spirit? Because you've had 3 businesses, is that right?
Yes. Yes. Well, that started when I was working at the college. And this is before I got expelled from the college. I was invited to seek employment elsewhere. So,
I love
it's
the
a
way you put that,
reoccurring
Chris.
trend in my life. Yeah.
I was invited.
Yeah, I as I mentioned, I had some trouble with depression, and there was a time in my early 20s I battled it to the point where I had to be in a hospital for a while, and I was struggling with a lot of issues, some family dynamics and all, of which I don't want to go into here. But
Sure.
basically, because of the struggles, I had more trouble at college, not only in class but at a college job that I had, and they invited me to seek employment elsewhere, and I said, fine. I can do what I've been doing at the college, which was I was helping people learn how to use their computer software installation, that type of stuff. So I started my first business going to people's homes and small businesses, helping them install software and training them how to use stuff like, well, I think different names back then, but like Microsoft Word, Excel, which I think back then it was called Lotus or whatever. But
Lotus 1, 2,
1,
3.
2, 3, right? Yeah, I remember that. So yeah, so that's how I got into it, and I've enjoyed that, and because not only because I was invited to seek employment elsewhere, but it is challenging for some people with disabilities to find gainful employment for various reasons. So I went that route, and I encourage others in my community to do the same if they have trouble finding gainful employment. No one says you can't hire yourself to do something.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Chris, I get. Sorry, Todd. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you decided.
Yeah.
I think I heard in another interview that you decided because it was hard for you to get around, right? The buses and dealing with all that moved you more to thinking about doing something on your own. That's the way that story went?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. Before I was just visually impaired, and then when I had my ischemic stroke to my spinal cord, and I relocated from California, which has great public transportation, at least where I live, to
Right.
where I'm in Missouri, where what's public transportation?
Sometimes the bus
Is that
comes by.
carpooling?
I don't know what they think it is. We do have a minimal paratransit system. It's there, but it's not the greatest and all. I that's one of the barriers that people with disabilities face for gainful employment, just being able to get to a job, and because many of us cannot drive for whatever reasons. My main reason, that just my vision, is the other one. I would be the definition of road rage, because I believe every car should have a megaphone on it so you can tell the person in front of them how much of an idiot they are. And I've gotten much better because my wife has lectured me on this. I believe we do not extend the middle finger enough in traffic, so I should not be driving. So yeah, yes, because of limited challenges or obstacles with transportation, which is really challenges, I found a way around the challenge for gainful employment by employing myself and doing what I do.
And that led you on that path. So that was your first business. What was you had a second one?
Yes. That first one started around 1989. And then it was tapering off and all. So I went back to work at a college. And I was doing great there, and I was taking a class. I was very close to getting my AS at this college and the AA, and I had an ADHD moment with an instructor at night, and because we were learning about my meds and balancing them, and I was invited again to find education elsewhere. When that happened, I was also terminated from my job. But I've been playing with eBay at that point. So I said, you know what? I've been selling a few things around my apartment. I'm just going to go all in and start my own eBay business out of my 1-bedroom apartment, which I did. And I got really good at that, where the college wound up hiring me to teach a community education course on how to buy and sell on eBay, which was so popular. We had to add extra sessions during the first semester. It was
Wow.
awesome. And that led to me being a guest on my first podcast interview, eBay Radio, and I was featured in Entrepreneur Magazine, a special edition they did for eBayers in August of 2005. And I don't have it up on the wall right now, but I have a picture of me in that magazine, in the magazine cover that I have in a nice glass frame. So, yeah, that was my
Wow.
second business, buying and selling on eBay. I would go to buy things in bulk, or go and sell stuff for my family and all, or even go to the store and go visit the clearance rack and buy the 40 extra Stanley Cup t-shirts or whatever that they can't sell, because diehard fans will buy that stuff.
Be careful.
Right.
Jackie's a teacup collector.
Oh, she
Well,
has
not anymore. Yeah,
Oh,
I
she
used to
doesn't do
be.
that
I
anymore.
don't have those anymore. Had
Well,
to get rid of those.
Chris, that's very interesting, because you didn't let anything stop you. So share us what that magic is. Share with us what that magic is. What is that kept driving you after one defeat after another? You came up to a brick wall, and you just knocked a hole in that brick wall and kept going.
My parents would say this, because this is what I was like as a kid. One word: I was stubborn. Well, there's actually a few more words in there, but they're sentence enhancer. So we'll just stop at stubborn. And sentence enhancer, if you don't know what that is, it's from SpongeBob. My nephew used to watch SpongeBob when he was little, and that's a nice way of saying profane word. So we'll just stop with that. I am very stubborn. I don't want to give up. I don't want to be defeated. I'm not going to let anything limit me. We have a lot of people who will, and not just in the disabled community, I think it happens in the non-disabled community, who will let other people tell them what they can and cannot do, or they get turned down from a job, they feel rejected, or rejected in a relationship or whatever. They feel that that this is the end, there's nothing else they can do, and they let that defeat get to them. And I refuse to be defeated. I may wind up being defeated in the end, but if I am, I'm going to give a really good fight before I get defeated. So that's just been my mindset my entire life.
Fascinating.
Well, and I see that in your book, Success Starts with Self-Confidence, that you have 10, I don't know if there's steps or 10 ways or
steps, basically
ideas, okay, for what you can do to get that success and self-confidence. And the first one I think is very profound, and it is a great segue from what you just said, is self-acceptance.
Yes, that's very important. There was a point in my life in 1992. I went over to my parents' house. They lived a few blocks from me, and I learned that my brother, from my parents, not from him, that's the subject for another day, that he was going to become a father, and I was going to become an uncle for the first time. And at this point, I was still seeing a psychiatrist and on some medicine for depression. And I said, I'm not going to let this. I'm not gonna let my new nephew see me like this. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna get past this and all. And I went out and bought a poster by Virginia Satir. I believe that's how you pronounce the last name. Anyway, it's called "I Am Me." It's a beautiful poem that she wrote back, I think, in 1913 or early 1900s, to a 13-year-old girl who had a lot of questions about who she is. And in that poem is "I am me," and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to paraphrase. But basically, anything I don't like about myself, I can let go, and I can change and keep the parts that I like. And I realized that's what I need to do. I need to start letting go of the stuff I don't like about myself. Like Mrs. Lyons taught me, my behavior does not define me. I can change all of that. And that was my beginning of my journey to build the self-confidence, because I was doing these things, but I was not getting where I wanted to in life. And I thought, what do I need to do? And I need to change me. I need to change me. I need to have more confidence in me and not listen to the world who tells me that because you're disabled, you can't do this, or because you're visually impaired, we don't want to hire you. I need to have that mindset. So I started that, and the 10 steps in there are the 10 steps I took and I've used in my entire life to build the self-confidence that I have today and continue to build the self-confidence I have. And I wrote this book. I know you're not asked this, but I want to throw it in here. I wrote this book because it's been a 30-year journey for me, and I'm in my 50s now. I'm a dinosaur, and and I look back upon my life, and two things come to my mind. One, what has helped me create success in my life? The answer has been self-confidence. All the success I have is because I was self-confident, and all the success I missed out on was because of my self-confidence level was low. And
Mm,
two, it's taken me 30 years to get her. I don't want anyone who's in their 20s or 30s, especially newly disabled, to spend as much time to achieve success as I did. I want to, this is my, well, not really a gift. You have to pay for it, folks, but this is my offering. So you can get to success a lot quicker than I did and build your self confidence a lot faster than I did. Because I don't want to see anyone be in their 50s and think, why did it take me 30 years to get to where I'm at? I would like to
Right.
see people
mm,
do this a heck of a lot quicker than I did. So learn from my
Well,
yeah.
mistakes.
let's drill down into that a little bit, because
Okay.
in that chapter, you actually have an exercise where people go through and identify. I think you have them write it down. What is it that you don't like about yourself? What is it that you want to achieve? All of these, I was blown away by the entire list that you had people identify, and then they can work on that, or then they can put that to the side and work with the positives.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe
That
explain that a little.
Yeah, and because that exercise, for one of a better word, which it is, because the book is based, and the coaching is similar. And if you're working with me, I mean, we would do it together. But basically, yeah, you do make a list of all the things you like about yourself and don't like about yourself. Even if you don't like your disability, that is a part of you, and you need to accept that and embrace that and own that. And what you like about yourself, you need to celebrate that. That is all a part of who you are, and you have to accept each and every unique part of you. And I believe I said it in this chapter that every one of us is a unique individual, as unique as a snowflake is in the month of January, because there's no two people who are exactly identical in this world. And if there are, that's probably very, very rare out of 7.8 billion people on the planet Earth. So we need to embrace that. We need to acknowledge it, and we need to celebrate it and not be ashamed of any part of ourselves and any part we don't like. Like if you realize, you know what, I could be a real jerk at times. I tend to act like a Karen at a store and yell at people. I can change that about myself, and it kind of comes from what Mrs. Lyons taught me. That your behavior does not necessarily have to define who you are, but you do need to acknowledge it, because you can't fix the problem unless you know that is there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very wise. Very wise. And you have in that chapter as well the suggestion that everyone create an I am statement. And
Very powerful.
I've done that before. It is very powerful. And so that's a great chapter. You guys need to get Chris's book because he's written it from his perspective, but it will be relevant to you as well. And Chris, what I find in the second chapter to be very interesting is it's titled Self-Care. And the reason that's interesting to me is because someone with a disability is obviously used to being somewhat cared for, but because you can't do certain things, so you do require certain amount of support or care from other people. And therefore, I think it's very powerful that you've provided this way to say, well, but you have to take care of yourself too. So, what are
Yeah,
some ways that you suggest self care for people with disabilities? And what are some things that you personally do? I know there's two questions there again.
that's fine. Fine. Now I know what my guests feel like. Okay. It's not a bad thing. It's a challenge. I can take this on. Remember what I eat for breakfast? Challenges, because they're
That's
better than
right. I
Cheerios.
love that.
So yeah. So yeah, self-care. There's a lot of things that we can do now. I like to just back up one moment here and just say, even though this book is written for people with disabilities, especially self-employed, anybody with a disability will gain something from this book. Anybody that's not even disabled will gain something from this book. It's written as my perspective as a person with disability, but we can all learn from each other no matter what our backgrounds are. But let's talk about self-care for a moment. It is important. You're right. As a person with a disability, sometimes we do need others to help care for us. We may have trouble with our ADLs, activities of daily living. Like when I first had my incomplete spinal cord injury, my wife had to help me get dressed and do some of the things that I used to be able to do easily. But when I'm talking about self-care in this book, I'm not talking about maybe physical self-care as much. Although I do mention in there about eating healthy, which I'm the last person to talk about that, which I mentioned in that chapter and why. But
Well, how many
you know,
calories do challenges have in them for breakfast, you know?
I, enough to keep me fueled for the entire
Okay.
day.
Good.
There's a good answer, right? But what is really my favorite part of self-care is me time, because we are always so involved with other people in the world, whether we're interacting with them on social media, watching videos and all, whatever we're doing, we're always interacting. We always have people around us. We have noise coming in. We have emails going off, alerts. We need to set aside a time for just us to get in touch with who we are and how we feel. And I do me time more in the evening because I have trouble falling asleep. So I do it then. But a lot of people like to do it in the morning. I wish I could do it in the morning. With my ADHD, there's so many other things I could be doing right now. And I like to leap into it. But in my me time, I think about how do I feel? How do I feel about my day? And there's some self-reflection in it, which I don't think I put in the book, but there's some self-reflection you can do and say, what did I do today that I liked? Or I know I feel bad about something that happened. Like yesterday, I posted something on Facebook. I hate social media, but I posted something on Facebook. Somebody wanted guests for the podcast, and they said send me a message. So I posted a comment, DM sent. And it turned out to be that's a violation of Facebook policy, because some reason the algorithm thought I was soliciting, likes to artificially inflate my numbers on my YouTube channel. I don't know. And all I said, DM sent, because if you don't do that, people don't know to look for their message request area at times. So I did that, and I felt really bad about that. And I reflected upon that, and I thought I did not do anything wrong. It was the algorithm that caught me, but I did learn. Because whenever we make a mistake in life or have a failure, it's not a failure if you learn something from it. So I learned not to say DM sent on Facebook anymore. And I had to accept that and forgive myself, because it really truly was not my mistake. But when you do go through the day and you have me time, and you reflect upon your day, you think about the things that you did great and the things that you did not do all that well. Forgive yourself for them, because you're human. You're going to make mistakes, but try to learn from them so you'll be smarter in the future. Because I have a friend of mine, he lost a couple of jobs. He's in his 20s and all. He lost a couple of jobs. And he felt bad about that. And he said, I feel like a failure. And I said, did you learn anything from it? He said, yes. I said, then you're not a failure. If not a failure, it was a lesson. As long as we learn something from it, you do not fail.
Nice. Absolutely. Wow. There's always those teaching moments, and I'm certain that people with disabilities have probably more profound teaching moments than those of us who don't, and they come more often. So I'm really impressed by your strength. I'm really impressed by the way that you are giving back so much to other people. So you must be very filled. You must feel like this is a special opportunity. Maybe you're being invited to do something really special for other people, and I appreciate that you do, Chris. Um, One of the other chapters that you mention is taking ownership of your life, and it's obvious that you've done that. What are some tips that you give to entrepreneurs with or without disabilities in ways that they can do that?
This is a very important chapter to me. Taking ownership of your life is probably one of my favorite chapters. Is the taking ownership, because a lot of people would like to blame, whether you're self-employed, entrepreneur, disabled, not disabled. We tend to like to blame people for things in life. I see people in the disabled community blame and say, I can't get a job because of ableism, the ableist society, ableist, which are forms of discrimination. Or I can't get because they didn't like me, or she did not want to go out with me because I'm in a wheelchair. Now, let's be honest, there could be some truth to that. Okay. Those things do happen. But if you start saying that all the time, or I'm never going to get hired because of ableism, you are now giving away your power to succeed in life. And you got to
Mhm.
stop doing that, because when you start saying that, it's like, all right, my analogy I like using is this, and I did it in the book, is you have car keys, you have a brand new car, and you got this car, and you give those keys to your 15-year-old kid, which probably is a mistake to begin with. But what happens with that is that 15-year-old kid is not going to care about where you want to go or what you want to do in life. You're now dependent upon that 15-year-old, who most of them are irresponsible, not all, but most are, to take you where you want to go. But you can only go when they would like to go. If they're busy playing a video game, you're like stuck at home. And that's what happens when we start blaming other people for our lot in life. We are giving away that power. We need to reclaim that power
Mm.
and accept what is wrong. Like if you did not get a job, maybe it was because there was discrimination. But then again, maybe somebody else in the interview gave a better interview. Maybe somebody's more qualified. Stop blaming it. Start looking at yourself, not to blame yourself, but to say, how can I do better next time? You take ownership by saying, uh, this is my fault, or this portion is my fault. My dad and I did not have the greatest relationship. My dad was a verbally abusive, functioning alcoholic. And when he passed away, I went through a lot of struggle with accepting the relationship that we had and did not have. And I came to the realization I was responsible for I could have been a better behaved kid, but he could have been a little bit more supportive and loving of me. And
Mm.
as an adult, I feel like I don't want to say I struggle with self-confidence and self-esteem because my dad was verbally abusive. Yes, that was a contributing factor. But I also, when I was 20, 21, 22, I stayed in the same community as he was instead of moved away, which I probably should have done. It probably would have been better for me. So I have to own that part. That part of why I struggle with self-confidence, maybe from my father, but part of it was decisions that I made. And once I can accept that and acknowledge that, I can learn from that so I can make better decisions in the future. So don't be afraid to own your mistakes. Because when you show ownership, if you made a mistake on the air and you said, you know what, it's my mistake, my bad, often people will have more respect for you for owning your mistakes instead of trying to push it off on somebody else.
Yeah, that's so very true. Okay, let's
Nice.
move forward. What drives you today, Chris? I think you specialize in helping people with disabilities. Is that the way it works?
Yes, yes, I do. What drives me is my entire life, I've always had this passion. You can call it a calling if you're a person with of faith. I am a calling to help people. When I was about 8 years old, this is going to shock everybody. I was in Sunday school. That part won't shock you, but I was a handful in the Sunday school class, and I was almost invited to find Sunday school education somewhere else. But the solution was one of the other adults in the Sunday school program would come to my classroom and give my Sunday school teacher a break from me and take me out of the room, and we will walk around the church collecting the attendance cards from all the Sunday school classrooms. And I loved helping, and I fell in love with helping at that moment. And I was on a school bus. But at the same time, we had a bus driver who played an AM radio, and I fell in love with morning radio. I thought, I want to in my life be a morning radio DJ so I can help people be happy as they go to work. Because I saw my dad and everybody else is so miserable going to work. I want to make people happy. And I fell in love with the idea of helping people. And all through my life, I've done that. I've helped. And I was on eBay. I sold on eBay. But that did not make me happy. Not as happy as I was when I was teaching an eBay course to help people learn how to buy and sell. So this makes me happy. And that's one thing I tell people to do. If you're going to be self-employed as a person with disability, find something that will make you happy, that you enjoy doing, because you won't, less likely you get burnout, and you won't feel like you ever worked a day in your life because you're going to have fun doing it. So yeah, this is my calling. I love to help people, and it's what I am very passionate about doing. And I know a lot of people in the disabled community struggle with the challenge of disabilities, and they just want to have the same opportunities for success as our non-disabled uh, our able-bodied peers, and like I said, challenges. Well, the challenge may be I can't get gainfully employed. We don't look at it as an obstacle, look at it as a challenge, as how can I create success that my able-bodied peers have? Stop looking as an obstacle. And that answer to that is maybe for you, self-employment.
I would have to imagine that dynamic has kind of changed a little bit these days because more and more people work from home. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes. I always say this, COVID, not to mitigate the tragic loss of life we have from it. I'm not trying to say that and someone who lost a loved one during that event thinking that guy's a jerk. No, that was tragic, the loss of life. But a lot of good has came out from it. I mean, Zoom, we're using that right now to do this meeting. Zoom really took off. Man, I wish I got stock in that thing. But I didn't. I could be retired. No, I wouldn't retire. My wife says I'm not allowed to retire. I have too much ADHD. I'm forbidden to retire. So I won't be retiring anytime soon. But it did open up and it made it more mainstream for working from home. And a lot of people have started their own business. We've seen the gig economy take off. We've seen, excuse me, the gig economy, including virtual assistants, take off, which persons with disabilities can work from home as a virtual assistant. So even though we had a lot of loss of life in the COVID years, 2019 to 2021, or whatever you want to consider them to be, there's been a lot of advancement that's given a lot of opportunities for self-employment for persons with disabilities.
Wow. Yeah, and you have just kind of sailed along with all those changes. You mentioned eBay. There's probably people who don't even really know what eBay is these days. It had its big heyday, and it's kind of gone the way
It's
of so
not
many
what it
other
used to be. I
companies.
mean,
No. Do you
no.
still buy and sell from it?
If I can't find it anywhere else, I go to eBay.
You go to eBay.
I am a Amazon shopper.
Yes, like so many.
Yes.
I had a question, Chris, about one of your other books because the title intrigues me, The
Okay.
Cheese Ball Clan.
Okay.
So who is that book written for? And would you mind telling us a little bit about it?
Yes, that book is written for primarily middle grade kids, but I've had adults read it that liked it too. It's about 3 kids that are really good friends that's starting out in a middle school, first day of school, and one of them is being bullied fiercely by a unknown student at the school. And they have to figure out who that person is and a way to handle that bullying before it destroys the 3 kids' friendship. I won't tell you the ending because otherwise you won't buy it. But yeah, it's about
Wow.
3 kids and they're really close friends and they're being bullied.
Are they being bullied online? How could they not know who was bullying them?
They are being bullied primarily from school, and it involves not violence, but there's some physical altercation.
Okay.
One of the kids gets stuffed into a locker and leads to a fight.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
on the school grounds primarily. I don't want to give away too much of the book, but yeah,
Okay.
but not really online. It's more face-to-face, real time. But yeah, bullying is a major problem in school, especially cyberbullying. I'm glad I grew up before the internet for many reasons, not just for bullying, but some of the stupid stuff I did as a kid. I do not want to have living on the internet forever.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my kids don't get that, but they will. They will one day.
So that's a book written for middle school kids. That's exciting
Yes.
because I teach middle school kids. I'm going to have to
Check
give
it out.
them that book. That will be fun. Yeah.
And that was your first
absolutely.
book?
Yes and no.
Oh.
That was that was the first book I published, but the second book I published, It Doesn't Define Me, I finished writing first. So depends on how you want to look at it.
Now you've got oh, go ahead, Todd.
Go, you go.
I was just going to say you've got a free gift
Yes,
that you are willing to give our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is? And then listeners, I will put the link to that in the blog post this week. So if you are intrigued by what Chris is offering and you want to get it for yourself, you'll have to read the blog.
And
So go ahead, Chris.
that blog is at www.lifemasteryradio.com.
Yep. So go ahead, Chris, tell us
Good
about your
place for the
gift.
blog. It's easy for people to remember. Okay. The free gift is this. I have put together a cheat sheet of 3 things you can start doing today to discover, develop, and grow your self-confidence. And it's called my cheat sheet to self-confidence, or words to that effect.
Nice.
I don't have it in front of me, but basically it is a cheat sheet, had 3 tips on what you can do. I'm not going to tell you what they are right now, because if I tell you them, why would you go and get the cheat sheet, right?
Right,
So
right.
you want to point your browser to your favorite browser. I don't care which one it is. You can do it from your phone. You can do it from your tablet. You can do it from your computer, or any other way you get onto the internet that lets you browse. You want to go to Success Starts with Self-confidence.com. That's Success Starts with Self-confidence.com. And that's where you will get that free. Yes, free. And if you're not happy with it, your money will be refunded. Remember, you got it for free, so you're not getting anything back. But you can go and get that free gift right now.
Is it appropriate for young people too?
Yes, yes, yes. I think
Excellent.
it's more written for adults, but what's in there, kids can get something from as well. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. That's very kind of
Oh my
you.
goodness, we have looks like we got about 7 minutes left, Chris. This hour has just flown by. What else are we missing? What else are you up to? What else can you tell us about that we might be missing?
I'd like to mention, if I could, real briefly here, the other book, It Doesn't Define Me, and we mentioned my journey of how I survived an ischemic stroke to my spinal cord, my incomplete spinal cord injury, and my fight to get my life back. And I won't go into much of the book because we're kind of low on time here, but I want to tell you where that title came from, because I think it's very important. I am a person with disability, physical disability, and I had my injury, and I went back to the college where my wife, fiance at the time, was working. And some of the people who knew me at the college, who did not know what happened on summer vacation, I had it in July. Like, nobody told them what happened to Chris in summer. They had these looks of shock, and their jaw dropped to the floor, and they had looks of pity, and that bothered me. And that's not uncommon in the disabled community. That happens. So one night while my wife was teaching a class at the college, I was outside the classroom, and I transferred off of my wheelchair, and I was feeling down for those looks. And I looked at the wheelchair, and I took my hand. It was to my left, and I pointed, and it said, "This does not define me."
Hmm.
And I said again, "It doesn't define me." And that was my mission at that point, to show the world that there's more to me than this wheelchair. And a lot of people in our community need to know this. They need to have that mission inside of them. I wanted people to say, because at that time I was selling on eBay, I want people to say he's a great seller, trader on eBay. He teaches, teaching eBay, all these other things I was doing. Then at the end, they would say, "Oh, and he's in a wheelchair," if they even mentioned that at all. That's where
Hmm.
that title comes from, and that kind of thinking is what guides me in what I do. It doesn't define you. Nothing in your life that's going on um, can has the power to define you unless you allow it to. And I tell people, don't let anyone define you, tell you what you can and cannot do. Only you can define yourself. And that's the premise of that book. And we expand upon this in my new book, Success Starts with Self-Confidence, which will be available late February, early March. We had a few delays and some editing, but it's coming, folks. It will be there. And if you
Yay.
go to that website, successstartswithselfconfidence.com, and get the free gift, you will get notification when that book is available. So I
Oh,
encourage
great.
you to do that.
Awesome. That's really
So
fabulous.
the only thing we really haven't talked about is your coaching, and we touched on it a little bit, that you specialize in helping people with disabilities. What does that look like? Who is your ideal client, and what can they expect?
All right. First of all, ideal client is, generally speaking, persons with disabilities. Now, I probably will connect better with people who may have ADHD or physical disability, or maybe visually impaired, because those are areas in my life that I've challenged. Or maybe some people with depression. I try to stay away from mental health, not because it's a bad thing. It's not, but
Just
I'm not a
hard,
licensed psychiatrist,
right?
psychologist, and some of the psychiatric issues, you really need to see a licensed professional as opposed to a coach. But that is is what it is. And I probably would do better with male clients than females because, and not to be sexist, but I understand things from a male point of view. One of the things that happen when you have an incomplete spinal cord injury, you have some difficulties with certain adult topics. I'm not going to mention them here, but you do. That can happen with spinal cord injury. I understand what it's like for a guy. I don't understand that for a girl. So I might not be the best person to help you with that. But regardless, what I focus in on is helping you build that self-confidence you need to do anything you want in life. Yes, I do focus in on people who aspire to be considering to be self-employed or self-employed who want more confidence to grow their business. That's primarily because people would spend money because they believe the ROI, return on investment, would be better if it's going to help them start to grow a business than somebody, I just want to have more confidence so I can have more friends. They probably won't, but I can help them with that as well. Because whatever I talk about in self-confidence, not only going to help you have confidence for self-employment, but it can also give you confidence for relationships. Heck, I'm married. I found somebody who would fall in love with me, even though I was a person with disability. We have a lot of problems with that in the community. We have people who are afraid to do that. So the confidence will help with that. The other thing I want to mention real quickly is this is 10 steps to self-confidence. I use these steps to have the confidence to convince a business to hire me while I was holding a white cane in my hand when they were not hiring anyone. So the self-confidence stuff is not only great for starting a business, it's going to help you succeed in any and every aspect of your life. And you work with me, we're going to work together. Now, I want to rephrase that. I don't like the word if, because that's kind of wishy-washy. When, that's more confident. We use that word around here. When you work with me, we're going to develop your confidence together so you can achieve whatever your professional goals are, whether that be getting gainfully employed or starting or growing your own self-employed business, because I want to serve you. I want to help you achieve in life, because I'm tired of seeing people with disabilities struggle. We have an unacceptable unemployment rate in the disabled community. But if you look at the numbers, we rock in self-employment. We are if disability was an ethnic demographic, we would be leading in self-employment, and that's where my passion is. And I want people to see, just because they can't get a job, that's not the end of the world. There's other options out there.
That's the really cool part. And where can people find you, Chris?
They can find me at my website, defyingyourself.us. DEFINEYOURSELF.us.
Cool.
I'll give you that, not my home address. So let's go to the website.
I want to thank you, sir, for showing up as you today. I think that you're a great inspiration for others, especially others with disabilities, that they can overcome and climb up on top of the world. I think that's what your goal is what I'm getting, and that's what people ultimately end up with.
Yep, people can create the success regardless of what the definition of success is, and those of us in the disabled community can have the same opportunities to succeed as our non-disabled peers. We just got to find an alternate way of doing it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Jackie, cool guest. Any last comments? It was a fun show.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that you are a great example of someone who doesn't go for me, but instead reaches out to help other people and help them to feel better about who they are. So I really appreciate what you're doing and your great mission. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me. And your listeners are invited to check out my podcast, Successful, Self-Employed, and Disabled, on most popular podcast player platforms, and my YouTube channel.
Very cool.
Yay!
That's about all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. My biggest hope is that you'll tell a friend about the show, and then you'll go to our YouTube channel and check out some of our other shows. Lastly, please, please, please make it a great day, because it is all about choice. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. Join Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery through stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Visit their website, www.lifemasteryradio.com. Join their mailing list and be notified about upcoming guests. That's lifemasteryradio.com.